We already added CSS styles to our HTML document via the style tag we placed in the head element. This is not the only way we can add styles to our website. It's not even the best way. Now I would like to show you how and why we should do it differently. What ways do we have to add CSS styles to our HTML document? The first way we can add CSS styles is to put them directly in the tag we want to style. How? With the style attribute. You already know the attributes such as a class, ID, src, and href. Style is also such an attribute. With it, we can write CSS declarations directly in a specific element. The downside of this solution is that this style is limited to this one element only. The second disadvantage of this solution is the appearance interfering in the HTML structure. We always want the structure of the website to be separated from its appearance layer. Additionally, such an element is very difficult to modify later, because let's imagine that now we have to modify each of these elements separately. We have hundreds of the p tags on the website, and we need to change the font size to 26 pixels for each individual element. Of course, it makes no sense. Things you need to know about the inline styles. The inline styles assigned to a specific element obscure all the other styles. So they are the most important in some ways. They have priority, for example, over styles placed in a head tag. But don't think that since they are the most important, they are also the best. It's exactly the opposite. We should not use the inline styles to set the appearance of the websites. The inline styles and their priority apply to the use of JavaScript on the websites. But you'll learn about this later in your study while exploring JavaScript programming. The second way to add the styles on our website is to put them in a style tag in the head element of our HTML document. We have the opening and the closing style tags, and we can write CSS code between them. This way of adding styles is rather not recommended because it only defines the styles in the scope of a certain HTML document. It will not refer to other subsites on our website. It only works with the HTML file in which it is placed. However, it is worth using this method of adding CSS styles when learning, as I show it to you with various examples. It also comes in handy when we test the code and want to check something, because this way is fast and convenient for this type of work. Note that the style tag can be opened and closed multiple times in our HTML file. This is not recommended because it's better to have all CSS styles in one place for the code clarity, but technically it's not an error. Also, don't be surprised if you see the style tag in the body element. This will work in most modern browsers. Moreover, even in this case, although the style tag that defines the appearance of the p tag is in the code after the p tag is placed in the document structure, everything will work fine. The interpreter will read the CSS code first and then the HTML code. However, it makes no sense to include our CSS styles in the body tag. Let's put the style tag in the head element. We will always know where our styles are located, and we will be sure that even the older browsers will recognize them correctly. The third and the best way to add CSS styles to our HTML document is to put them in the external file. This file can be named anyhow, but it must have a CSS extension. To import the external CSS file to our HTML file, we need to use the link tag with the rel attribute with the style sheet value and the href attribute containing the path to our CSS file. This way, the interpreter reading our HTML code when it encounters our CSS file will load the styles from it before reading the rest of our HTML document. This is the best way to add CSS styles since we don't mix HTML with CSS. We do not mix the structure of the website with its appearance. Also note that as we could add multiple styles tags to our HTML document, we can also import many external CSS files. However, it is best to import one CSS file because we don't force the browser to download several separate CSS style files. Admittedly, it would be more convenient to keep separate styles for the header and the main tag, for example. And in more advanced projects, this is exactly what developers do, but then all CSS files are compiled to one large CSS file, and in this form it is placed on the server. This is possible thanks to the preprocessors, but these are more advanced topics and you will learn about them in the future. Now I would like to show you in practice these 3 ways of adding styles in the code editor. By the way, I will show you how to create a basic directory structure for our website and how to import a CSS file into our document when it is in a different folder than our index.html file. Now we are in our code editor. You can see I have my web dev course folder open right here. Inside we have our folders, day 1 and 2, day 3 and 4, day 5 and 6. Let's go to our folder day 5 and 6. And you can see I have a project right here. It's an empty folder at the moment, nothing is inside it. So I want to create a new folders inside this folder with our project. So let's do this. As you remember, to create a file or a new folder inside a folder, you have to click the right mouse button on this folder, not below it, but it has to be on this folder right here. Right mouse button, new folder, and let's call it CSS. Let's make another one. Let's call it IMG. And another one named JS. So these are typical folders in a website directory, where in CSS we place our CSS styles, in IMG we place our images, and in JS we place our JavaScript files. Now let's create our index.html file inside this folder, like this. Let's create our basic structure, just like this. Let's make those text indents smaller. Let's save our file. And now let's create a link tag to our CSS file. Let's place it at the end of the head tag below our title. All we need to do is to type link, press enter. And with Emmet we have already the whole link tag with the rel stylesheet attribute and the href attribute with the text cursor ready to place the path to our CSS file. Now if we place the name of our file, which is style CSS file, which we don't have at the moment, but this path refers to the file in the same catalog as our index.html file. So we would have to create a new file inside the same catalog named style CSS. Here we have it. Let's close it. So we can see index.html is in the same folder as our style CSS file. And this link tag is correctly placed to this style CSS file. But it's not clean to have different file types in the same catalog. So let's delete this file with style CSS from here. And let's create the same file in our CSS catalog. So all we want to do now is to click this catalog right here. Click on it with the right mouse button. And then choose new file. Name it. Press enter. And now we can see that our style CSS file is in this catalog CSS. We can close it, open it, and we can see it clearly. Let's close the style CSS for a moment. Or you know what? Let's open it. And let's place some styles in it. For example. This is our basic style reset. Let's type something else. Let's leave it like this for a while. And now we can see in our HTML document, this path is wrong because it refers to the file which should be in the same folder as our index.html file. And as we know, we have our CSS style file in the CSS folder right here. Now let's open our file with the live server. Let's open our DevTools. Let's make it bigger a little bit. At the top where we can see our elements overlap, we have our console as well. And it's a place where we can look for errors in our website. So let's go check it out. And we can see we have an error right here where we can read refuse to apply style from our index.html file. And that's because our href attribute indicates the file that doesn't exist. So we have to change our href file. I'll delete it, everything what's in it. And now what we have to do is to point out the folder first. Our folder is CSS. And you can see the Visual Studio Code already gives me a prompt if that's the folder I'm looking for. And that's exactly the folder I'm looking for. Now I can click it or place a slash. And here you can see that the Visual Studio Code also indicates the style CSS file which I'm looking for. So I can click it or type it manually as well. Just like this. So this is the correct path to our file. Let's create something in our body tag, for example a p tag. Let's fill it with the lorem. Let's save our file. And the first thing you can see that we have our p tag right here. And we are in our console right here. And we see no error. That means that our file is imported correctly to our HTML file. Our CSS styles now are recognized and read by the browser. Now we can go to our elements overlap, go to our styles overlap, and we can see our asterisk rule with our margin 0 and padding 0, which is applied correctly to our website. And we can see it's from our style CSS file right here. Now let's select our p tag. And we can see we have this empty rule applied as well, which we can see in our code right here, in our style CSS file. So let's place something in it. Font size 50 pixels, for example. We can see it already in our project preview. We can also see it in our DevTools. We have a rule for a p tag with font size 50 pixels in our style CSS file, as we expected. So style CSS file is a separate file and we can check it. Let's make this bigger once again. We can check it by going to the sources overlap, which you can see right here. So let's go to this overlap. And you can see right here, we have all sources of our website. We have CSS folder, a CSS style file, and the index.html file. And we can also click it and see everything what's in it. You can see there's an additional code made by the live server, but it doesn't matter for now. You can see it's the exact same code right here as in our index.html file right here. The same situation when we go to our CSS folder, go to our style CSS file, and you can see this is the same file where we can see in our code editor right here. These are the same rules. But as you can see, we have here our CSS folder and our index.html file. But in our code editor, you can see that we have also an img folder and a JS folder. And you can see we don't have it in our browser sources overlap. And that's because they are empty. The browser downloads all the files that it needs to display the website to the user. The files are being downloaded with their directory structure. but the empty folders are left behind. And all these files can be displayed in the DevTools, as you can see on your monitor right now. Let's go, for example, to a different website, such as TechCrunch. We are in our sources overlap, which you can see right here. And you can see all the assets of this website, including the index.html file. And we can clearly see what's inside this file, where you can see familiar HTML tags like head, meta tags, link tags, a body tag with some class, a div tag with an ID attribute, many divs, header, h2 tags, etc., etc. But let's go back to our project. Let's go back to our index.html file, and let's add some inline styles to our p tag. Let's make it bigger to see it better. All we have to do is to place style attribute like this, and we can place the CSS code right here. Let's make it font size 5 pixels. Let's save our file, and you can see the difference on your monitor right now, that our p tag is barely visible. Now let's add a style tag at the end of our body tag. And let's create another rule for a p tag with font size 100 pixels. Let's save our file and see what's gonna happen. And you can see that nothing changed, because no matter what we place in the style tag or in our external CSS file, the inline styles are the most important. So let's delete this inline styles. And what do you think? When I save our file, which CSS rule will be applied to our p tag? The one I used in the style tag right here with the font size 100 pixels, or the one used in our external CSS file where I used font size 50 pixels? What do you think? Let's save it. And you can see it's clearly the second one, this in the style tag, because we can see this is 100 pixels for sure. So as you can see, the ones from the style tag were used to apply on our website, but that's just because those styles were written after those styles. First, the browser read the styles from the link tag and then from the style tag. But if we cut this style tag from here and place it before our link tag in our head element like this, if I save the file, now we can see the font size changed from 100 pixels to 50 pixels. Because now the first row is this one, and that is the second one. And the second one with the same importance is applied by the browser. The inline styles are the most important, but the styles in the style tag and the styles in the external file are equally important, so the last of them will be chosen by the browser to be applied. Let's see it in the DevTools. Let's go to our elements overlap, to our styles overlap. Let's select our p tag, and you can see that both rules are taken into account by the browser. The one is from our index.html file. The second one is from our styles CSS file. And the second one is applied to this element. Fun fact is that you can actually click the style CSS, for example, and then you will go to the sources overlap with highlighted this specific rule, which is taken into account by the browser. So you can check it on your own eyes and see where it's from. If we go to our elements and now go, for example, to our p tag from our index.html file. If we click it, we will go to this HTML file and see exactly where this rule is in our code. So these are the 3 ways of adding CSS styles to our HTML document. The inline styles, styles in a style tag in our HTML file, and the best way, putting our CSS styles in the external file and importing it to our HTML file by the link tag in our head element.